All right. Hey, hello, everyone. I want to welcome you all to the Buddhist Recovery Network Academy. I'm Calico. I'm joining you from the United States, from the Vashon Island in Washington State. I came to Buddhism from the Rooms of Buddhist Recovery, and I'm deeply grateful for the practice and benefit it has brought me and many others. I'm a member of the board of the Buddhist Recovery Network and maintain the website, and we're very excited to be redesigning the website this fall. But today we have a new academy teaching offered by Fresh Lev White. The pronouns are he, him, and love. Thanks for joining us today. The topic is going to be practicing in Sangha, diversity, and belonging. Thanks everyone for being here and being part of our community today. All of our teachings are given freely, and we're blessed with some amazing teachers who have experience on the cushion, experience working with the body, speech, and mind, experience in the ongoing practice of recovery by way of the Dharma. As we practice the Buddha's teaching of generosity, we invite you to give dana that will be given to support our ongoing Buddhist Recovery Network meetings and to support the teacher. You can give on a one-time or recurring basis using the link posted in the chat field. But if you do, please be sure to indicate your donation is for the Academy, and we sincerely thank you for your generosity. So with that, I'd like to introduce our guest teacher. Fresh Lev White is a love and compassion activist. He offers mindfulness, meditation, and diversity trainings as tools for shifting towards a more authentic, conscious, and passionate living. He teaches and writes about how unconditional love and self-compassion are the ultimate gateways to honoring and understanding others, thus healing our communities and our planet. As said before, the topic of the teaching is practicing in Sangha, diversity, and belonging. Sangha is a community of friends practicing the Dharma together in order to bring about and maintain awareness. The essence of Sangha is awareness, understanding, acceptance, harmony, and love. That's from Thich Nhat Hanh. But what does it mean to practice together? How do we hold one another in our different identities with respect and reverence? How do we create safety for ourselves so we can stay mindfully engaged or mindfully withdraw as needed? Well, please join us in practice and discussion of this vital third gem. So Lev, the stage is all yours.
Nice to see everybody here. Thanks for having me in your space. As I was listening, I was thinking, wait a minute, those are the first lines of my talk. I didn't realize that I had shared that. But thank you for sharing that. Thank you, Calico and Shauna, for greeting me this morning and helping me get set up. And always, Silasari, for your service. So my name is Lev. I'm grounded at the East Bay Meditation Center in Onoloni Land, which is located in Oakland, California. And I've gone through several Spirit Rock trainings, CDL, and the Dedicated Practitioner Program, and other classes. And one of the reasons to talk about Sangha right now is we're in an ongoing experience of othering and just considering what it means to belong, what it would mean to belong to your community, to belong in your family, to belong in your Sangha spiritual community. And for those of you, depending on what kind of recovery form you've been practicing in, you understand the power of being in community, the power of working with and sharing with other people. I'm also aware that this morning somebody might feel a little isolated and alone. It happens. It can happen to me in a crowd. Somebody might know what I'm talking about. So also having a spiritual connection with yourself as we go into the meditation. I just want to offer that. We'll talk about broader community, but it's so important that you are in some ways connected to yourself as we go into practice. Let's see if there's anything else I want to say. No, we'll go into practice. Hopefully my bell won't sound too bad. I've been messing with how my sound works. And we'll practice for at least around 20 minutes. 20 to 25 minutes. I'll do some light guiding. So just for those who, if you want silence, you can just turn your um, speaker off. But I'll do light guidance every few minutes in the beginning and then every 10 minutes or so. Inviting you into this moment, into this time. Depending on where you are, or maybe it doesn't matter, having your breath be your date for this session, unconditional attention, perhaps noticing the breathing in. And for those of you who might be uncomfortable with breath, hearing without listening, without anticipation, that can be your focus, along with sensations in your body. For those of you who may be feeling restless, don't fight yourself. You can tap the side of your thigh, put your hand over your heart and tap that. I invite if it's available to you to notice your toes and wiggle those. Perhaps notice the sensation anywhere where your body is touching or leaning towards the earth. Just notice that hug that we call gravity. As you're inhaling, notice if you're breathing in fully, and fully is only what's available to your body. So for some of us, it might be our diaphragm. For some of us, our chest. For some, just the top of our throat. So whatever's available, just notice if you're holding back. And as you're exhaling, can you release your shoulders and upper back? And as you're inhaling, you might imagine breathing up towards the top of your head. And when you exhale, releasing any tiny muscles around your eyes, your nostrils, your forehead, your jaw, your chin, just releasing. Taking a moment and releasing this time your elbows towards the floor and finding the sensations in your hands. Meeting whatever's there, numbness, coolness, heat, tingle, whatever's there, meeting that with kindness. As I go into silence, we remember that this is a kindness practice. The mind will wander and we simply return. Kindly coming back to this moment. Gently returning to this moment, your breath, your body.
already been caused. 33 million, as you mentioned, humanitarian aid, and the really
Savoring these last few moments of silence. Now might be a good time to honor yourself for showing up to the practice, to the Sangha. Each inhale a reminder of your worthiness, your enoughness. Releasing just into that. And if it's available to you, you might allow for a little appreciation for the others, the holders of the space, and the other participants, the other Sangha, for helping to create this space with you. And taking into consideration that there are millions of people meditating all over the world. And some of them are sending us metta right now. Can you take that in? And coming back to you as we prepare to return. So, thank you for your presence. And I invite you to just stretch a little. You might stand up. I think I'll stand up for a moment. Body is supposed to move, and just give ourselves a second. Yeah, just breathing in a different way. Inviting you to just be at ease and relax as much as you can. And I'll share a little about my understanding of Sangha. A little bit more from Thich Nhat Hanh, who I've been studying mostly lately, who says a Sangha is a community of friends practicing the Dharma together in order to bring about and to maintain awareness. The essence of Sangha is awareness, understanding, acceptance, harmony and love. When you do not see these in community, it is not a true Sangha, and you should have the courage to say so. But when you find these elements or presence in a community, you know that you have the happiness and fortune of being in a real Sangha. And so I love the way he there's talking about the courage to talk about what is our experience. And I was considering earlier simply that we have so many ideas as human beings. We're sort of conditioned into the separateness that I mentioned when we first opened. We're conditioned to see other. So that some people, and I've met people over the last decade, for example, who've never met a Black person, right? Some of us have never met anybody from the Appalachians, right? Some of us don't know any bikers, and some of us don't know anybody who's queer, and certainly many more of us don't know anybody who's trans. And so what we learn about them is what's taught to us through the media, so that when someone shows up in our face, or in our space, I should say, then we have, we're just, all we have is our implicit bias, even as kind as we want to be. What we're sort of, what's souped in us is like this idea that they are other, they are different. Sort of like how I do diversity trainings in the many offices that I've gone through, whether in tech or in schools. The Black guy always gets called bro. He's the only one that gets called bro. And this idea of like, that's how we're supposed to, speak to Black men, for example. And of course, many of us, misogyny flows through the thread of our experience. So there are many different ideas about what a woman should be and how she should behave. And so we have implicit bias around that based on where we grew up and what that was like. And what's it like? What would it be like if instead of judging, we could actually learn to get curious and embrace each other? And that may also include those who we are close to, those who may be in our family or in our offices, in our community. This othering that we practice often puts us on defensive and creates this judgment space where we can't even have a conversation with someone who may have a different opinion than us. And I also like to think, one of the people I think about when I say something like that is, you may have heard of the Black man who's collected more than 25 Klan robes. He didn't go to the Klan and start telling them what was going on. He sort of got to know them, allowed them to know him, and people put their robes down, right? That's like meeting with compassion and curiosity. Certainly we can do that more often in many other places. And then the other issue that can come up for us, especially in spiritual community, is something called lateral oppression. And I don't know why I wrote lateral oppression is our greatest enemy, So I know why I wrote that, because I believe that that's true across the board. When, for example, firemen are mad at teachers because they don't want to buy their own school supplies while also getting underpaid and working long hours. And then people want to, get mad at the people who drive the trains because they're striking because they're not making enough money, or we're blaming nurses for striking. And that's called lateral oppression, where we're all sort of in this place of supporting a larger system, supporting each other, and we tend to blame each other instead of looking at where the problems stem from. Another example I have of that is I used to do tech for small theaters in San Francisco. And what I found was, I remember there was something about a $5,000 grant that people were fighting for. $5,000 in San Francisco. This was during the .com, or I was going to say .bomb, during the .com. And so where it should be 1 million. And so my suggestion was like, instead of competing with each other, what if you got together and simply demanded more? So lateral oppression for me is our greatest enemy, because we will turn towards each other and blame each other. Right now in Oakland, before COVID, there were 1,000 evictions happening a month. And prior, it's something closer to 2 or 3. So what happens? People are homeless, people get violent, and instead of looking at the system, we're blaming the people, right? So lateral oppression. This also obviously shows up in spiritual community. So when we're judging someone for how they're showing up, instead of being grateful that they're showing up. Those of us who are in recovery, we also know what it's like to kind of want people to behave in a certain way, and we can get really trapped up in that. And that leads my thought to think about towards this idea of cancel culture. And as soon as I figured out what it was, because I wasn't sure at first, I understood that it was a practice of self-hate. It was a practice of saying that we're not enough. When a person, when someone does something wrong, especially if they've done lots of great things or good things or positive things, but in any case, when we decide that someone is canceled, we're saying so because there's something in us that's not enough. There's ways to like move people to our periphery, move them to the side, move them out of our space without trying to cancel their existence. And we know, actually, we've had traumas in our own communities, Buddhist and recovery, and so we want to hold the fruits of the what came out of the work that we did or someone led and provided. We want to honor that part of them while wishing healing for the other parts of them. We don't have to throw anybody away. That's not, anybody here who has a bodhisattva vow or is considering it, we can't throw anybody away, right? Everybody matters. So our separateness creates suffering. And again, I'm sort of in a Thich Nhat Hanh mode. And I believe this is from him. And suffering, of course, dukkha, is one of the biggest problems of our times. First, we have to recognize this suffering and acknowledge it. And I think that we've all had a lot of opportunity to acknowledge the suffering. Then we need to look deeper into its nature in order to find out, in order to find a way out. If we look into the present situation in ourselves, our society, and we see much suffering, we need to call it by its names. Loneliness, because I'm not sure it is him, I'm going to add some things because I didn't put a name, but loneliness, fear, doubt, a feeling of being cut off, alienation, division, the disintegration of the family, the disintegration of society. This all comes from the othering. This is Thich Nhat Hanh here, and he talks about the roots of Sangha. And in order for us to develop some roots, we need the kind of environment that can help us become rooted. A Sangha is not a community of practice in which each person is an island, unable to communicate with each other. This is not true Sangha. No healing or transformation will result from such a Sangha. A true Sangha should be like a family in which there is a spirit of brother and sisterhood, and I'll add humanity in all its forms, genders, and gender identities. Be Like Water is the song that we opened up with, and that song comes out of a quote from Bruce Lee, to be like water, so that we're flowing with situations and not in resistance of them. What would that be like when we're engaging with someone we don't like or in someone we don't know, where we're actually both. It doesn't mean we're not careful and we're not taking care of each other or ourselves, but that we allow a little bit more flow of the information that's coming in, so getting past the mind thoughts, the implicit biases that we already created. A community is needed to help us resist the unwholesome ways of our time. Mindful living protects us and helps us to go in the direction of peace. With the support of friends in practice, peace has a chance, says Ajahn Soweto. My book around here somewhere, but Larry Yang also talks about this idea of awakening together. Like, this is our practice. To even awaken together in conflict, to be able to exchange and be together and support each other in conflict. Let's see, I think there's one more thing I want to share before I move on. So the other thing that Thich Nhat Hanh talks about that I didn't for some reason save here is also that our Sangha is beyond the people who are around us. But he talks about how our Sangha is everything that's here. So that your chair is your Sangha, and this air is your Sangha, and that the water in your body and the water that you will drink today is your Sangha. So that the trees and the animals and all of this is your Sangha. And he talks about this as walking on a spiritual path where you understand that everything is a part of you and you are a part of everything. When I'm talking to different audiences, I might talk a little bit about, or I could just, and here just talk about how, these bodies belong to this earth. They're made of this earth, and they return to this earth, whether in ash or in whole body experience. That the soil is within us, the water's within us, right? The phosphorus and the nitrogen. And also that the stars, and they say that there's stardust that comes down, we're breathing that in. Our breath goes around the earth and comes back, which means we're also breathing each other in, so that we are each other. And what happens if we begin to see each other as each other? What's possible for us then? Dolores Huerta, who kicked off the last Farmers March, and may the people who feed us and provide our food, may they receive the shares of abundance that they deserve. May they be safe and find homes. It's a really tough experience. The people who picked your food today are not necessarily living happily. Dolores says, we can't let people drive wedges between us because there is only one human race. That's it. It's just us. The race is human. We've got lots of social constructs around that. And I do want to, I will be remiss if I don't talk about this as well. It occurred to me after the Roe versus Wade was struck down, and it particularly around what's happening in the trans community, where people who don't have clueless, just listening to the media and have their ideas, that I or anybody in the space can do our laundry with bleach today, and I or anybody in the space can paint something and use turpentine or oil paints. I or anybody in the space can use ammonia. We can use that, plumber Drano stuff. Like, we can do all of that and impact all of our water. Nobody cares. But when a single person decides that they don't want to carry someone to birth, it's suddenly a global issue. When a single individual decides that they need to make changes to feel more comfortable or aligned with how they see themselves in their body, it's a global issue. It's something for us to consider. We can poison the water with each other. And we're doing a great job at it, actually. Nobody's out on the streets fighting it, but people will be and have been showing up at LGBT pride marches with weapons. There's something wrong with us. And that goes back again to the lateral oppression. That goes back to the lateral oppression. This is more important for your shirt to be white than to save a life of a young trans person who may decide to take theirs, and they do too frequently because they can't live in the body they want to live in. That's our Sangha. There's a prayer that I want to share that I got from a Jewish prayer book, a Siddur, and but it doesn't say who wrote it, but I found it and I wanted to share this. It says, Divine Creator, we have come together to pray as a congregation, yet each of us is strangely solitary in your presence. Each of us comes before you with special hopes and dreams. Each of us has personal worries and concerns. Each of us has a prayer no one else can utter. Each of us brings praise no one else can offer. Each of us has regrets which others cannot know. And so we pray. If we are weary, give us strength. If we are discouraged, give us hope. If we have forgotten to pray, remind us. If we have been careless of time, forgive us. If our hearts have been chilled by indifference, warm them with your mercy and inspire us with the glowing spirit of your holiness. And this charge I offer to you as a Sangha, meeting each other with this, offering each other strength and hope, offering each other time and forgiveness. And I would love to say more, but I'm going to stop and see. We have a few minutes left, so I want to see if you have any questions. And my hope is that I've said something that touched or served someone in some way with these shares.
All right, we have a comment in the chat. You're welcome to either raise your hand or wave your raise your hand in Zoom or type your question. Let's see, Mark, just a comment. I was guided here today because I was beginning to feel somewhat disconnected. I'm meditating, reading, and even receiving signs as confirmations I'm moving in the right direction. Some days it gets to be a little lonely. Thanks.
Mark, thanks for showing up for yourself. You help create the space for other people. Yeah. Keep showing up.
Yeah.
I used to go to a few Dharma talks a day, and I used to go to like a recovery session every day, like during when my times are hard. And along the way, I've collected a few beauties, a few wonderful people.
Well, I had one question, Lev, I guess. We've been trying to figure out as an organization how to promote safety in the Sangha, because it's these are just drop-in meetings, right? Anybody can come in with all of their whatever state they're in, hopefully sober, but and how to make it safe for everybody. Do you have any ideas or any thoughts on that?
Yeah, conversations are happening in other sanghas around what we're calling more. They're calling it brave space, but I don't know if that really works. Unfortunately, no one can guarantee safety. So how do we take care of ourselves if something happens? Like, I don't know what the breathing was that was happening during our practice. So how do we take care of ourselves when something odd goes on? I know I've been in different spaces, in spiritual spaces, where we've had trolls come in, and That might mean for you that you turn off your computer and you walk away, or you turn off your screen and your mic, you walk away, you take a few minutes and you come back when it feels safe while the tech people try to figure it out. But there's no way to guarantee safety. I think the question is, how do you take care of yourself in those moments? That's life, right? That's just our lives.
Yeah.
Like microaggressions happen, and that when a microaggression is when someone says to someone just because they're native, can you do a rain dance? There's nothing fun or curious about that. It's harm. And so I want to encourage you, when you're harmed, to practice self-compassion and have that be where you ground and center. It's not, don't question whether you're judging them. Don't question all of these things. Go to your heart, and your heart will know, that you don't deserve that. Just like the person who gets called bro in the office, it's a not quite as severe as the dance comment. It's more like people think, they want to be cool, and they're just ignorant to the idea that they're literally othering someone.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Yeah.
right? So there's the ignorance, and then there's a microaggression, and they can come from, they can be the same, but coming from different places.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we've only got 2 minutes left. I wish there was more time. I'm sorry I didn't leave more time for questions, because there's so much I want to share and offer. And maybe I'll close with that before I let Calico come in, and just say that self-compassion is what makes you a good Sangha member. Caring for yourself, honoring what's coming up, allowing yourself to heal. Ooh, Emily, I see you. Allowing yourself to heal. That's what makes you a good Sangha member. Because while you're beating yourself up and you're allowing all those negative voices to come in and say, well, maybe they're right. No. Kindness. All right. So I see Emily and Jim, and I don't know if I can take more questions. Calico, is that cool?
We let her run a little bit over. We just have to,
I'm totally cool with that.
respect people.
Yeah.
That's all. And people are, I guess I just want to say, if people have to drop, that we'll put some links into the Zoom chat now, and just say, appeal again to help support our community and practice generosity, and give us some dana if you could find it in your heart. And there'll be some links in there, and we will, but we'll be winding it down shortly. And we will close with merit, you or I, Lev, but let's let's let it run a little over, and that's fine.
Cool. Yeah, and I want to say on the dana part that generosity comes back. Don't look for it, it'll come. So these people, they work really hard to make this happen. It's all volunteers, so just keeping the systems going. Your generosity will come back. It may come back in your heart. It may come back financially. Please help support. All right, Emily. Begin with yourself. So you said you think, you believe you have implicit bias. What is it? What are those? Self-compassion, self-care. So what we don't want to do is fix anybody. This Al-Anon person said that out loud, right? So getting curious with your uncle, with your cousin, with your friend, whoever it is one way to help build connection. So we get curious. I don't have to sit there and blame and shame, but I just get curious. How does that serve you to believe that way? Why do you support that idea? How does it make you feel? Do you think about how the other people will feel? You don't argue, because nobody can force us to do anything we don't want to do. So it's not about that. We understand, we have compassion because they're traumatized. From very young ages, racism is like, it's a tool, you traumatize your children. right? And you teach people that other people are wrong and other people are bad. Any of us who have ever felt, hate or rage towards someone knows how painful it is. So you grow up with that. That's painful. These people are in trauma. They're reaching for anybody who can help get them out. And they're, the people who have been in charge of our country have always done a great job of keeping us separate. So we investigate. What does that mean? How do I help people reconnect? But, definitely no blame, definitely no shaming and no guilt, but just compassion for yourself and compassion for the other person. Exactly. And beginning with us.
Yeah.
And you can, you should be able to YouTube that discussion. It's, there are a few videos on it, and you can see his conversations with some Klansmen. It's pretty interesting to see. All right, let's do our dedication. So at one point I had this bell perfect, but so taking a moment, taking a breath, noticing the sensations in your toes. I'd like to invite you to consider any woulda, coulda, shouldas, wish I did, say, didn't say, and see if you can let those go. Everything is perfect. Everything is right as it should be. So we begin by dedicating the merit of the practice to our own hearts, to spaces in our hearts that may need healing. And then we offer it out to the world, what's left, because we know that's clean and authentic and healthy. Offering, may all beings everywhere without exception be safe, free from inner and outer harm. May they all live in abundance. May they all be compassion. May they all be free.
Beautiful. Thank you, Lev, for bringing us out.
Thank you all. Sorry we ran so far over. Yes.
Bye, everybody. We'll leave the room open a little bit for people
Thanks.
to try to get the links, but
Yeah, and I just wanted to share that a month from now, on Sunday, September 2nd, we'll have Dave Smith leading the next teaching. So see some of you there. And thank you so much, Lev. It's really, it's always...
October the 2nd.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, October 2nd. You're right.
Okay.
I am not in this time and space, it seems.
Okay, yo. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.